Okay, so let me tell you the funny part. She still made him carry that stuff, though.
Man, I always been bossy.
She still used those muscles.
I always been bossy.
That's too
Little,
funny.
I didn't know I was going to be
so
the
funny.
boss, for real. I always been bossy since I was little. My mother said it. She said, the nurse gave her the wrong child. I said, well, I look just like you.
You sure do.
That's good, too. But so he did that, and I was walking in a trance. It was like slow motion. I went to a front, and I had my MGM t-shirt on. I was working for MGM at the time. And we get to the front, and this guy was like, oh, you part of MGM? And Mr., who I was with, said, come on here.
Ooh, he could have said Kizzy. I felt like he was trying to say his Kizzy.
He said, come on
here. I'm feeling
here.
that.
And I went right on. That ain't me, but I walked on because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm telling y'all, here's the thing, though. I never forget mission. I got to get this stuff back to the conference, and I'm going to deal with this later. But mission first. People always, someone asked me that about Jill too. They say, how do you get people to do what you need to do? One of the brothers here. And I said, well, I work for Jill Cloud. If the rapture come, and you left behind, you better do it. She ain't here, but you better do what you said you're going to do. So I said, I got to get this stuff back. Lanita's waiting on me. Everybody's waiting to bring the stuff. Serena, all them waiting on to bring the stuff. So I get in the car, and I'm telling you, I was not there. I was floating on a cloud the whole time. I faked it that whole day. I even had to come up after Jill and talk. And the Lord kept me in the spirit realm, because if I came back in my natural realm, I would have fainted. I would have given up, and I've been crying on Jill's shoulders and Anita's shoulders. I don't know what I would have been saying. Probably speaking in tongues. I was hurting, and I was hurt, and I couldn't believe it. And I knew I had to break up. I was not going to go in with someone who showed me rage, and he had showed it, and I still went out with him. He showed it at dinner. He showed it when we went to lunch. He talked terrible to our servers, and the only time I got upset because our server was named Jill. And I don't know, you can't talk to her that way.
Thank you very much.
And then I let it go. I didn't want to be so desperate and so held hostage by the way the world told me I had to be married, and especially this age. And I was not going to do it. And that helped me, and it kept me. And we finished the thing. Jill finished early, thank God, because he was going to come back at 3 o'clock and help us wrap up. But we finished early. I took him his cooler that he let us use. I have not talked to him that day to this day. I made that decision in that moment.
Shamir, what'd you say?
So, you asked the question, how do we feel when something doesn't go our way, and then what do we do? So I'm going to go a step back and also share what I think.
Good.
So I had an incident recently at work, and I was in charge of doing this workshop. I was so afraid of trying to carry out this task. All of my thoughts were so condemning, but I did not realize it until the back end. So I probably had maybe 2 months to plan this thing. I'm dragging my feet on everything, from calling the presenters, getting the flyer together, trying to pick a date, trying to pick the time, delegating tasks. Everything that I had to do, all of my thoughts were back up. Even when I first found out I had to do it, my first thought was, I'm not going to be able to carry, I cannot do this. I'm not the planning type. That's not my area of expertise. I'm not going to be able to do it. The presenter's not going to call me back. Those were all of my thoughts. This kind of give you an example. So long story short, the day of the workshop came. We have about 30 people in our program. One person showed up. So on one hand, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. This is how nervous I was to even carry out the workshop. So I'm like, thank you, God. Only one person showed. It's going to get canceled. The other half was, my supervisor said, well, we're going to go back to the drawing board. You got to do the workshop again. So in all of this, I'm recognizing, because my thoughts were so condemning, how I felt when it didn't go down. Yeah, I was disappointed. Yes, I was angry. Yes, I was sad. And it made me want to withdraw. But I realized it was all attached to what I was thinking in the first place. So Oh, I was also going to supervision, and I'm lying. So they asking me for updates, and I'm like, yeah, I talked to him. Just waiting for him to call me back. Shamir, you didn't talk to him. It was a month ago. Like, follow up with them. But this is how I was dragging my feet, the procrastination. I am terrified at this point. So now where I am, I'm having to plan the workshop all over again. But my thoughts are so different, and I'm able to handle the disappointment. I feel so differently even when it's not going my way. So I'm also while this is going on, I'm having to do an internship. And so I had the thoughts of, oh my God, what if I get in there? What if they think I'm not getting good enough? And then the other thought that followed was, even if you don't get it, that's not who you not getting this internship does not determine who you are as a person. But before that, it was, if I don't do this right, then I, Shamia, the whole of me, all of me, you are a failure. You are not good enough. I don't even know why they hired you in the first place. I'm 100 miles per hour on that highway of every discouraging, condemning thought you could think of. And that in turn determined how I felt when I'm disappointed and what I do when I'm disappointed versus now. If it doesn't go my way, it just didn't go my way, but it's not determining, it's not impacting who I am and what I feel about myself. So now I'm able to have a conversation with somebody else about this thing that happened that disappointed me. It's a feeling, it's what I feel, it's something that didn't happen, didn't go my way. It's not me as a person that's wrong. So
Amen. All right, ladies, with all of you, what do you feel like? What do you do when it doesn't go your way? How do you process it? Anybody?
Anybody wants to share? Here's a mic, and there's a mic.
Are you saying, like, what do you think now, or just, like, personally, what happens when
Read the question to her again.
are we answering?
Yeah, I'm going to get her to read the question again so you can get it.
What do you do? How do you feel when a particular thing does not turn out the way you would like? How do you process that?
They want to hear you, so we're going to get her a mic.
Okay, sorry.
If you don't mind. Thank you.
So, personally for me, I feel the same way that you did. I think that I'm a failure as a whole. But then I also reconcile with you because my mom is such an angry person. So all my life is like everything has to be perfect. I have to wash dishes the same way that she does, clean things the same way that she does, talk and move the same way that she does. So when something in my life doesn't go right, I'm like, oh my gosh, you didn't do it like your mom said. Or something was off, you could have did it just a little bit better. And then I'm rethinking everything in my life to the point where it paralyzes me and I do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I put myself, like, I want to be away from people. I don't want to be around people because I'm usually
Isolation.
always, yes, I isolate myself because I'm usually always happy because I'm like a extrovert for people. I always want people to come together and be happy and make people laugh. And then when something goes wrong, I'm like, nobody look at me, nobody touch me. I can't speak, I can't do anything. So that's how, or what I'm dealing with now.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank
It
you.
just reminds me.
Anybody else? Someone?
Come on, exhale. Exhale, get back. Anybody?
Here she comes.
Oh, okay. She coming up too?
Oh, did somebody say Lanita was
Yeah,
coming
no, Toya's coming. I think her husband kicked her. She was trying to be an authentic woman. I think she got kicked in the knee.
No, my physical therapist killed me yesterday. No, I wanted to thank you for sharing because I was originally coming up here having that same thought, and I was like, no, I'm not quite there anymore. I think I'm slowly learning how to differentiate between the stuff that's happening and it not always being a total failure. Like, Toy is not a failure. That activity or that action may have not worked out, and so there's still this constant struggle with each scenario that I have to take a step back and have those conversations in my head around. Even if it's something as simple as my boys are doing something, or they could be in the middle of the store acting and cutting up, and I have to remind myself, that's not a reflection on you as a mom. That's not a reflection on, you're not teaching them, and I have to even catch myself in those joking moments. Look, don't be acting like you don't have no home training, or things like that. Or don't act like we don't feed y'all at home. And it's like, so I have to say, no, don't even put that in the atmosphere. Don't entertain that thought, because at the end of the day, you know your truth. You know you feed your boys. You know you try to teach them right from wrong. But they're toddlers. They're 2 and they're 4.
Oh,
and
boy.
this is age-appropriate behavior. They're going to do what they're going to do. And you can't internalize every activity and say toy is a failure or toy didn't add up. So I'm still in that battle, but it's action by action, moment by moment. I haven't totally arrived, but I do see some growth, and I thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for sharing. So let me tell you what we're going to do right now, because I don't want to keep us too much longer. We had some other questions that could have been asked, but I think we did pretty well. I think you all shared really, really well. What do you say? I think you open up some space for people to think, and that's what we try to do. That when we share, sometimes we give other people words. Some people, they know how they feel, but they don't know how to express it yet. And when you share, and especially when you share honestly enough to say, hey, you know, I lived in a place with somebody who was angry, and that, you know, that anger, now I'm trying to live up to something, and which means, as I said about that song that I listened to, it is, you searched everywhere trying to find the likes of you or someone else, but nothing else could compare to loving you like you do. And after a while, it becomes true. I think one of my favorite praise songs, Cry Until Your Tears Hit the Floor, is I Searched All Over. You know, when we sing that song, everybody just knows nobody's sitting on the left of me or the right of me. Because I just don't know what might happen. But that is I've searched all over and I couldn't find nobody. Nobody greater, God. Nobody greater than you. And that's so true to me, because it helped me to understand the nature of relationships. They come, they go. Some last for a lifetime. Some friends are friends on the road that you think will last a lifetime. And things just change. And sometimes I said to my husband, I said, this is not a breakup, it's just a change. It's a change. I'm not breaking up. It's a change. And it's hard to do because we have our plans, but God's purpose prevails. God's purpose prevails. And sometimes he advanced you by failing you. How about that? By allowing you to fail. But I want you to look in your notebooks so that we can go over something that I hope I put in mine. Okay, we did. So I created this sheet, and it looks like a bunch of, it's this one. Okay? It's a sheet, I should have named it, but it talks about, in the top of it says, while a vision may appear in whole pieces. You see that one? Mm-hmm. We're going to go over that, and then we're going to do one more thing, and then we're going to transition out. And listen, we are definitely forming a strong women's group, because I believe that this is needed. I believe with the way you're talking, most of us came in the door that way. There's some people we've known for years and years and years, and we had to learn how to survive our parents, survive our childhood. So it started with survival, but now you have to overcome so that you can live. Because survival will make you aggressive.
Yes.
It has an aggressive energy. Part of overcoming is, as the Bible would say it is what Jesus did for you to help you get your mind back and your life back. How your testimony, my mother-in-law said it this way, how you see a thing and you not rehearse it, but you reverse it because you see it in the light of God. He said, what all of these things, and then you don't love your life so much that you're afraid to confront what you need to confront. And the first person to always confront is you. The first truth to be known and skilled at is the truth about you. Was it you? Who said something about denial? Who was that? Somebody said earlier, was that you? Yeah, tell yourself the truth. And that's the first place where you learn the truth is with you. We tend to try to know other people's truth better than we know our own.
That's right.
And this is why the Bible will tell you in Matthew 7, don't judge another person. Deal with the beam in your own eye. And when you deal with the fault and the stuff in your own eye, you will be better equipped to help someone else. But trying to help somebody else and you're blinded by your own stuff. You may feel real good about it, but the Lord knows best. And at 55, she's a little older than me, she's 56 already. I know that too. So let's just go over these. These are like cards I use, quotes that help me get through. Here's the first one. While the vision may appear in whole pieces, the fulfillment happen in parts.
That's right. That's right.
And,
That's so true.
I don't have, you got an extra pen? Somebody bring Gail a pen, please, if you have an extra one. 3 people need a pen? Okay. Where's Lisa? Lisa's purse looks like a suitcase. I know you got about 2 dozen pens in there. I said, girl, how you carrying this bag around? Thank you. We need 3 of them. Okay, so here we go. Lisa, let me see your purse. What purse you have today?
She just got a pen.
I just talked about your big purse. Anyway, while a vision may appear in whole pieces, the fulfillment happens in parts. Why do you need to know that? So that you won't become anxious for anything.
Amen.
And so that you can see God in each part.
Amen.
And see if am I still on track? Procrastination was a spirit long before it became a word, and spiritual choices are rooted in beliefs and agreements. When you're not doing something, that's a spirit. Procrastination is a spirit. But that spirit, Shamir, you said it was fear, right? You said once you realize your thoughts brought fear in. Fear wrote in on your thoughts. I'm going to say it that way. So now you have this project to do. Now you dragging your feet. Got 2 whole months, but you're dragging your feet. Dragging your feet not because you're not equipped to do the project, but you have to deal with the question, why am I fearful? Why don't I believe I can do this? What is going on? What is it? And so it's rooted in beliefs and agreements. So oftentimes, and I always talk about breaking historical agreements. That's the root of what I typically do on the front end when I do things now, because there are some things you've been told were true and they're not. They're not. I showed my husband about the fly maid, and I talked about Deborah, and I said, God knew that she was a wife and a wife when he called her to lead. He said, Deborah was married. I said, oh my God, you never paid attention to the fact that she was somebody's wife? Deborah in the Bible, you all, Judges 4. You never paid attention? So what happens when somebody don't pay attention that Deborah was married? When God asked her to lead. And then men, and she was going to lead men. That is a huge piece for this world. Hashtag me 2, 3, 4, and 5. So and so people just, because where did most of our agreements and beliefs come from with relationships? It was biblical. Mm-hmm. And even if people don't pull out the Bible, they quoting it. They're speaking from it. They don't have to say John said. John didn't say John said when he said it. He just said it. And somebody else put his initials on it. This was from John. But he just said it. So people are talking from a frame of reference. I heard this before from a Hebrew teacher, and he just said it this way, and I'm sure it didn't originate with him. But he said, listen, every idea has a history. Every idea has a history. It's coming from somewhere.
Solomon.
What do you believe about it?
Under the sun.
There's nothing new. There you go. It has a history. There is a root somewhere, a belief or philosophy or thought. And if you don't go back that far to get understanding, you're going to be on a path that seems right, the path that seems right to you, but in the end it'll lead to death. It'll seem right. But you really do have to go back to the root of someone's philosophy. I think it's Amos Wilson was a philosopher, a psychologist, and he wrote books about the genius of black children. Really small books. He's deceased now. But he said, whenever you want to understand the culture, go back and look at his philosophy. Go pay attention to those things. But if you start where we start, which is in the middle of a conversation, we practically start in the middle of a conversation. So anyway, the way to get to not losing yourself is to not dismiss you. How does that happen? Dismissing you occurs when you are not able to feel your own feelings and think your own thoughts. So this is the sister, tell me your name. Brittany. This is what Brittany is saying. Brittany, you haven't been able to feel your own feelings. You're trying to feel your mother's feelings. It's never going to make sense to you. Never. Because you are never supposed to be externally regulated first. It's internal first. Before you start hollering at somebody, you already hot inside. If you would just take your own temperature first, You can hear the Spirit telling you this is not a good time to have that conversation. Because if this person does what they normally do and say something ridiculous, you're going to bring it like it needs to be brought. That's my testimony. Being heard, seen, and understood affirms one's identity and is a pathway for not feeling invisible or somehow replaced. Affirms. This quote came from, I can't think of her name, but she was the president of, what's the girls' college in Georgia?
More.
She's the president. She wrote a book entitled What About Race? And I read that years ago, and that's where. So I'm just telling you, this is how I picked up these things along the way. So what do I know when somebody's not firm, when somebody's not heard or understood? What do I now know today what you're trying to get when you want to be heard? You're trying to affirm your identity. So when I want to be heard, and I take a step back. If I'm feeling too much like, Deron, you're not hearing me, and I feel like I'm going in too much, I tell myself the truth. The real deal is you're trying to get him to affirm your identity. This one going to be on you. Because if he was going to do it, he would have done it by now. And forcing people to do stuff, it's not the best idea, the best way to go. What some cultures deem as expression or freedom to speak, others deem as talking back and disrespectful. That came from the hood of Harvard. I wrote that one. The next one says, do not drag me away, this is scripture, with the wicked, with those who do evil, who speak cordially with their neighbors, but harbor malice in their hearts. When a child experiences this type of inconsistency, what is the type of inconsistency? That somebody's talking to you, but they actually harbor malice in their heart. It's confusing. It's confusing when you're dealing with someone who's saying, I'm okay, but they're not. It's confusing when someone is over you and a parent is taking a dig and saying I'm not. It's a setup. And it's very confusing because some righteous part of you that you don't know to call that right now, some right-minded something understands that, wait a minute, this is different. And it becomes confusing. So this type of inconsistency, when a child experiences this type of inconsistency, he or she learns to bond with the confusion. Acquiring pleaser skills for bonding with chaos in future relationships. Snap, 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 snap. How do you end up bonding with chaos? You learned that at the knee of your mama. Yes. And it's mostly your mother, not your father.
Yes. Because they do it.
Most of the men, when I was in taking my school for psychology, when I did the background on the men who wrote did the theories for children, most of them had bad relationships with their mothers, not their fathers.